nearly 11 kilometres down, there is a dark, almost frozen world. A place so dangerous to explore that we know precious little about it. But now, one country is racing to reach these depths. China is deploying fleets of deep-sea robots, building underwater bases, and quietly moving to claim what lies at the bottom. This isn't just exploration. It's a calculated, rapid move to secure the future of the global economy before anyone else can even reach the depths. Welcome to the Mariana Trench, a colossal canyon carved into the Western Pacific, sitting between Japan and the Philippines, the deepest, most unforgiving place our planet has ever produced. For most of human history, we assumed this place was nothing more than a lifeless void, a geological freak, too hostile for any chemistry of life to take hold. But we were wrong. It turns out to be a world teeming with life that breaks the rules of biology, running entirely on chemistry and darkness. Today, this extraordinary place has become the stage for a new kind of global competition. New technologies are unlocking the secrets of the deep, and the trench has quietly turned into an arena. Robots, research vessels, long-term national strategies, all vying for dominance in the abyss. The deepest point on our planet is now a geopolitical prize, rich with resources capable of fueling the next century. Before anything else, you need to grasp the sheer, almost incomprehensible scale of the Mariana Trench. If you were to lift Mount Everest off its base and set it down on the sea floor at the trench's deepest point, Challenger Deep, its peak would still sit more than a mile underwater, completely submerged. For centuries, the true depth of that wound was nothing more than legend. It wasn't until 1875 that a British vessel, HMS Challenger, caught the first real glimpse of the truth. Sailors lowered a heavy weighted rope over the side, expecting it to graze the bottom within minutes. It didn't. Spool after spool unravelled into the dark water. For hours it kept going. When it finally went slack, they had measured a depth of nearly 5 miles, a number so extreme that many simply refused to believe it. That wouldn't happen until January 23, 1960. Swiss engineer Jacques Piccard and US Navy Lieutenant Don Walsh. Their mission was as simple as it was terrifying: become the first human beings to reach the very bottom of the world. And yet, when Piccard and Walsh peered out through their cracked viewport, they saw something science had declared impossible: a flat, living creature drifting calmly across a world designed to destroy it. That single glimpse shattered everything we thought we knew. If life could exist here, what else were we wrong about? To truly understand the creatures that call the bottom home, we need to make the journey ourselves, layer by layer, through the strange and increasingly alien worlds stacked between the surface and the abyss. The first stop is the Twilight Zone, a world of perpetual deep blue, where the last traces of sunlight slowly bleed away into nothing, and the rules of survival begin to shift. Here, everything depends on capturing those final, fading photons of light. Some creatures develop enormous, hypersensitive eyes to catch every last glimmer. Others learn to manufacture their own illumination. This is the domain of bioluminescence, a cold, chemical glow that animals deploy to hunt, to hide, and to find a mate in the creeping dark. Take the hatchet fish. Its body is razor thin. Its eyes are large, tubular, and lock permanently upward, always scanning for the faint shadow of prey silhouetted against the light from above. To make itself invisible to predators below, it lines its underside with bioluminescent organs. Below 3,300 feet, we cross into the midnight zone. Sunlight is gone. Not dimmed, not fading, gone. From here all the way to the seafloor, the only light that will ever exist, is the light that living things create for themselves. In this eternal darkness, vision becomes almost irrelevant. Other senses take over. Many creatures are covered in networks of pressure-sensitive cells that detect the faintest movement in the surrounding water, hunting with eerie precision through total blackness. The pelican eel is a perfect example. It has developed a massive, unhinged jaw and an expandable stomach capable of swallowing prey several times its own size, a useful adaptation when you genuinely don't know when your next meal might come. As we push even deeper into the crushing pressure of the Hadal zone, one enormous question demands an answer. In a world of permanent pitch-black darkness, what actually keeps life alive down here? The answer doesn't rise up from below. It falls from above. Life in the deep is powered by the leftovers of a sunlit world it will never see. It begins with what scientists call marine snow, a constant, gentle drift of organic debris floating downward from the surface, dead plankton, waste material, even microscopic dust particles. This slow-motion blizzard can take weeks to reach the seafloor, and over 95% of it is consumed along the way. What reaches the bottom is little more than a faint dusting, yet it sustains entire ecosystems. But every few decades, something extraordinary happens. A whale dies. When the carcass of a 40-ton whale settles onto the abyssal plain, it becomes an oasis of abundance, an ecosystem that can sustain complex life for up to a century. First come the sharks and mobile scavengers. Then crabs and worms move in. Finally, bone-eating worms dissolve the skeleton itself, extracting the last traces of nutrition locked inside. Nothing goes to waste, not a single calorie. Below the abyssal plain, starting at around 20,000 feet, we enter the deepest and most mysterious realm on Earth, the Hadal zone, named for Hades, the ancient underworld. This is territory exclusive to the deepest ocean trenches, where life is pressed to its absolute limits. Here lives the Mariana snailfish, a pale, ghost-like creature and the deepest living fish ever discovered. Its body is an engineering marvel, almost entirely gelatinous, with flexible cartilaginous bones that allow it to function under pressures that would reduce our own skeleton to powder. Even stranger are the xenophyophores, giant single-celled organisms the size of a fist. A single cell, thriving in conditions that should make cellular life structurally impossible. They are a biological paradox, and they exist nowhere else on Earth. These organisms, along with microbes that feed directly on chemicals seeping from the Earth's crust, prove a profound rule of the deep. When sunlight fails completely, life doesn't give up. It learns to eat the planet itself. We've made it to the bottom of the world, an impossible realm of crushing pressure and extraordinary life that rewrites the textbook on biology. For a long time, that was enough. The trench was a frontier of pure scientific wonder. But wherever humanity finds a place that is remote, mysterious, and potentially valuable, the story changes. The Mariana Trench is no longer just about what lives there. It's about who wants it and why. For 50 years after the Trieste's historic dive, the trench stayed largely untouched. That silence was broken in 2012 when filmmaker James Cameron made a solo descent that reminded the world this frontier still existed. He was followed by explorer Victor Vescovo, who beginning in 2019 made more dives to Challenger Deep than any person in history. Remarkable achievements, but driven by private ambition. The strategic turning point came in 2020, when China's Fenduje submersible descended to the bottom and planted its national flag on the seafloor. But this isn't about flags and firsts, it's about presence. This is no longer exploration. It is the methodical charting of a new economic and military domain.